Alright, so you saw the title of the video, and that's what it's about. I'm in love with comic books again, and it's something that I'm not I'm not sure I thought it would ever happen, but I'm gonna tell you a little story, a little a background that'll kind of put it in perspective. So when I was about 10 years old, this was circa 1995. Okay, there was this little grocery store down the street. It was called Fulmer, and it's been closed for years now. Shut it down a long time ago. But as a 10-year-old kid, I used to go there all the time. I used to go there and get snacks, get Mountain Dews, cans of Kick, the new hardcore Psycho Nitro drink in a can. Shout out to Kick. If anybody remembers Kick, it was very much like Mountain Dew. It was like a citrus soda. But anyway, I used to ride my bike to Fulmer probably a couple times a week and buy snacks, right? Buy snacks. I was a fat kid. Fat kid. I'm still a fat kid at heart. Love to eat. I'm at Applebee's right now. I'm getting some food. But yeah, I was a fat kid. I used to go to Fulmer all the time, ride my bike there, get some snacks, and ride back home. I use all my chore money buying snacks and drinks and whatnot. And let me just say, at the time, I was a big fan of Saturday morning cartoons, like most kids probably were in that era. And one of my favorite cartoons was the X-Men. And I knew of comic books, but I had never even opened one, never even picked one up. And this was back in the day where grocery stores had like a rack of comic books. Every grocery store had a rack of comic books. Various assortments, right? X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman. So, one day, I go into the store, get my snacks or whatever, and I just, for some reason, the little spinning comic stand jumped out at me, and I went over, and I was like, there was an X-Men comic book there, a couple X-Men comic books, and there was a Wolverine comic book there. Wolverine number 95 had the Vindicator on the cover. And, I don't know, something told me that I wanted to buy a comic book, right? First time ever. So, I bought two comic books that day. It was a kind of a rehash of the origin of X-Men story. It was called like Adventures of X-Men or X-Men Adventures or something like that. And, I bought Wolverine number 95, right? And from that day forward, it's all over for me, man. I fell in love with comic books. Became my life. All I cared about was having that, saving up my chore money so I could go there once or twice a week and buy comic books, right, at Fulmer. Then I found out there's a place that sells just comic books. It's called a comic book store, and that's all they sell is graphic novels and comic books. And we had one called Hawkeye Comics in our town, right? So I found out about this, and there I was, probably once a month or so, picking out comics that weren't at the grocery store. And, dude, yeah, I was just blown away. I was sold on comic books. Started going to comic book conventions. When I was probably 11, my parents had a friend who was a comic collector, and I don't know, he was hard up for cash or something, and he decided that he was going to sell some of his comic books. And he was a guy who really took care of his comic books. Every single book was in one of those sleeves with the cardboard backing. I mean, great condition. He would read them once, he'd put them away, and he'd keep them protected, right? And then if he wanted to read them again, he'd take it out every once in a while. Anyway, he sold, I think it was around 100 comic books to my parents, for me for Christmas, for $150. And this this drove it home for me. I opened up, like, when I went through these comics, not only because they were in such good condition, I'd never seen someone take care of comic books like that before, right? I had my collection of, like, maybe 30 comic books at the time, 40 comic books, and they were in sheaths, but they were kind of flimsy sheaths, whatever. I didn't know anything about collecting, but I got this thing, and I went through it, and these blew me away. The comics I had been reading was nothing like this. There was whole series in there. I discovered my favorite series, one of my favorite series of all time, the Age of Apocalypse series, right? And there was just so much. There was so much in this 100 comic books that just blew me away. And it wasn't just Marvel. It was there were some Batman comics in there, so there was some DC, there were some Image comics in there. I believe there was a Spawn comic in there, which made me fall in love with the character. So I'm in love with comics, right? I'm in love with comics, and then, like, I think my birthday the next year, another comic collector was getting rid of, and these weren't in great condition, but the sheer volume was insane. I think we paid $100, and it was like 500 comic books, right? And they were mostly older comic books, like from the 70s and 80s. And, oh, dude, it was so cool, because now I'm really into comics, right? And, you know, I don't know how to get, back then it wasn't so easy just to order stuff, right? Back issues of stuff. And I had all these old back issues of my favorite characters, from X-Men to Wolverine to the Avengers, and so now my comic book collection is, I think by this time, probably near 1,000 issues, mostly in really good condition, and I don't know, family life started to fall apart at that time. We basically lost everything. Our house was foreclosed on, and in the chaos, basically everything got left behind in our foreclosed house. My entire comic book collection was gone. I was about 14 years old, I think, at the time. Maybe 15 years old at the time. 16. It's 15 or 16. But, yeah, when that happened, it was so devastating, right? Not just what was going on, but the fact that I lost something that I was so in love with, this, like, thing that took me away, you know, this other world I could go to, and all those comics that I loved so much were gone. And, like, to this day, I think about how you know, I probably had thousands and thousands of dollars worth of comic books, because I had, like, some very rare things. I had the entire Age of Apocalypse collection. I had Spawn #1. I had Wolverine #1. Just some great comics. But when I lost all of my comic books, I lost the taste for collecting them. I didn't feel the need to collect things anymore. Like, we lost it wasn't just my comics, it was everything that I had, and I didn't care about keeping things anymore. So it was a life lesson that I think is very important, to not be too attached to things, to not put so much worth in things, physical things. So in that, it taught me a good lesson. But from then on, I fell off of reading comic books. And I think that was a big part of it, just that major devastation of losing so much. And for years, I mean, it's been almost 20 years, 17 years or so since then. And I was in the library with my kids a couple weeks ago. And don't get me wrong, I was blown away. I've always gone and seen all of the comic book movies that have come out. Obviously, it's my pastime. It makes me feel like a kid again, right? Puts me back in that feeling when I read comic books all the time. And so all of these movies, it's like a dream come true. Like, I always wanted them to make live action movies when I was a kid. Like, man, they should make an X-Men movie. This would be so great, you know. And just how far we've come now, like, oh my God, I couldn't ask for more. I feel like I was meant to be alive in this time. Like, if there is a creative force in the universe that decides, you know, how things go down, I think it was absolutely meant to be alive during this period in time, where I get to have these dreams and then see them fulfilled. So, I was in a library a few weeks ago with my kid, maybe a month ago, with my kids, picking out some books they have to read for school and such. And I don't know, something came to my mind. I said, like, I'm gonna go look at the graphic novel section. And I went over there, just to see what they had. It'd been so long since I read a comic book. But I remember that feeling. As soon as I got over there, I saw some of the ones that were in that original collection that I had, and it just took me back, man. They had the entire Age of Apocalypse series in graphic novel form, and I picked those up. Absolutely. And Batman Dark Knight Returns was there, and so I got that. And that's just a classic if you've never read that. It's one of the greatest comic books of all time. And since then, man, I've been reading. I've been reading through Age of Apocalypse series, and it makes me feel like a kid again, man. It makes me feel good. I love comic books again, and I think I want to collect them again. My original goal when I was a kid was to collect every issue of Wolverine, the original series, and because that first comic I bought, Wolverine number 95, just sold me on the character of Wolverine, and from then on I was obsessed with the character of Wolverine. My goal back then was to collect every issue, and at that time there was only 100 issues. Now there's I think like 300 some issues in that series, but I think that'd be a cool thing to collect, is just to do that for myself. Maybe I'll go and collect all the back issues of Wolverine. But anyway, that's it. I just wanted to make this little video, a little story time about my love for comic books and how I'm falling in love with comics again, man. Like, today I took my daughter to this place so she could play with other kids and stuff, and I'm just kind of sitting there, so I took my Age of Apocalypse graphic novel along and just read, man. I love it. I love it again. I want to read comic books again. Call me a big nerd. I don't care, man. I love it. I miss it, and I'm back, baby. I love these comic books, man. So that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about today. I know it's kind of a long video, but I wanted to have story time and let you know why I love comic books so much. So we'll see where it goes. But my plan right now is to continue reading and immerse myself in the comic world again. All right. If you like this video, if you like reviews, if you like movie reviews, series reviews, me talking about comic books, me talking about just random pop culture shit, then please subscribe to the channel, because that's what I do here. I just talk about whatever I want, whenever I want, and I post a few times a week. So if you're into that sort of thing, please subscribe, like this video if you like comic books, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.